afternoon to you, our dear viewers. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Youth Roundtable. My name is Douglas Onen, and this is Civic Space TV. Today, I am joined by a panel of distinguished ladies and gentlemen who will help us put perspective on the internal political party conflicts that are happening, but also we shall also have a brief discussion on the legacy of Professor Kanyeihamba, the contributions he has had in the jurisprudence of this country. And at this time, allow me just quickly introduce my guests and then we get into the conversation. From my immediate left, I am joined by a lawyer by profession, Ms. Ninsiima Precious. You're most welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be part of this panel. And thanks to Civic Space TV for always giving us such opportunity. Thanks to our viewers.
Thank you. Right next to Ms. Precious Ninsiima, we're joined by Mr. Mahad Kisuze Mugaya. He's the programs officer at Amica, Uganda. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Derrick.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here, and it's my second time. It's always a pleasure coming here, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our views.
Thank you. Right next to Mr. Mahad, we're joined by Ms. Hanah Terisah Amumpaire. I hope I have that right. She's the 28th Minister of Gender at Makerere University Business School. You're most welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and glad to sit with brilliant minds.
Thank you. Very happy to have you here as well. Last but not least, we are joined by Mr. Asiimwe Derrick. Mr. Asiimwe Derrick is a student of law at Makerere University, but also is a member of the National Unity Platform Youth League. You're most welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Derrick. I want to, first of all, applaud the Center for Constitutional Governance for doing what government has failed to do. For the last 40 years, it has been in power. I hope for a great conversation with this panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So let me start with you, Precious Ninsiima. A few weeks ago, we lost Professor Kanyeihamba, and may his soul rest in peace. Today, we just want to, briefly have a segment, one segment us talking about his legacy and his contributions to the jurisprudence of this nation. He has served in the judiciary. He has also served at the bar. He has served on the bench, but also he has greatly contributed to the 1995 Constitution that we do quote in this day and age. What are your thoughts about the passing of Professor Kanyeihamba and his contribution to the jurisprudence of this country?
Thank you so much. It is a great honor that younger people today are able to discuss about his legacy. And maybe to remind you what you have not mentioned is that he has also served as a great father to many of us. Yeah, because he has the children, as he saw in media. He has also served as a guardian, has served as a mentor, and in so many various aspects. As young people, basically, it was shocking because most people are asking question is whether he's still alive, but people who have been in spaces, people who were able to visit home, were able to share some of the great achievements, because he would share them directly. He would inspire people, like people who are in the legal field and also in the general life setting, because we saw how the public was criticizing when the president visited his family, and they were like, the president is going to clear off his hospital bill in Nakasero. And many people were like, somebody has been a judge. Is he failing to clear the hospital bill? But we see the passion that he had for his country, not the corruption scandal that we are having, how people fight to be rich so quickly, and also to grab everything that they see from all the government corners, because that's the challenge that we have currently, because you will see that there's money which is allocated to provide some services, but people use it for their personal benefits. But we see from all the history that Kanyeihamba has been dedicating his life to public service, and whereby it is not just by mere words. We would put it into actions, because we can see he has been a minister for constitutional affairs, has served as a state attorney in some years back. He has been also the chancellor like for Kabari University, because you know he comes from Rwanda, and actually people of Rwanda have been wondering why is Kanyeihamba going to be buried in the city. So many questions are moving around, but it is about his contribution because people of Rwanda were waiting to come and pay his last respect, but we saw that the Kabaka had already gifted him the land, and he's going to use this land as his internal resting home. What does it show to the younger people? That when you do good, actually at the end of the day, you will be awarded. Because we see that Kanyeihamba was not awarded this land in Buziga. And actually, this land was awarded to him by the Uganda Kingdom just from his service. A good service that he was doing for the kingdom, and the Kabaka granted the letter, and so the KCCA approved that letter. They said, okay, we are happy with it. Let Professor Kanyeihamba, who has been the legal pillar, the greatest legal mind of this country, not only this country, but also to different nations and also Africa at large, because we see Kanyeihamba attended different international delegations where he would represent Uganda on different international committee concerning different legal changes regarding the constitution, not only for Uganda, but also for other countries in East Africa like Kenya, because he would give his opinion, and his opinion is most of the time spot on. Like everyone would respect it because he was a great researcher. Because for you to shine with this legal field, you must be a great legal researcher. Because now we are in a political season, and now most of us miss his guidance. However, he has written so many books, and through his foundation, we still hope that his legacy can be pushed forward, though he has died.
But
he has
his values.
Yeah, the values, his kindness and the integrity. Because, you know, the society has interpreted lawyers to be in, like with a bad perspective. But I think looking at Kanyeihamba's values of integrity, because you have been assigned the role, what are you going to do with this role? Do what is right. And really we see Kanyeihamba was an advocate for the truth, for the justice, and good integrity in whatever we do in our daily lives.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your thoughts on Professor Kanyeihamba. Mahad, what do you make of the life of Professor Kanyeihamba, and what lessons as young people do we have to draw?
Okay, thank you very much, Derrick. Firstly, may God rest his soul in eternal peace. That is for Justice Kanyeihamba. Briefly about him, I think as somebody who has just completed law, and I think I speak for every student out there who does law, anybody in the legal field, you cannot study law in Uganda without studying constitutional law, because it's one of the foundations.
History and constitutional
yes. Law. Yeah. So when you look at one of the main readings in constitutional history of Uganda, it is actually Professor Kanyeihamba's book of, I think it's called The Constitution and Political History of Uganda. Yes. It's one of the most detailed books that you will ever find about the history of Uganda, more so through a constitutional lens. Also, when you go back to his achievements, I think there was a photo that usually trends. Actually, up to now, I think it's used. When you look at the street that was going to his home, it had his titles, right? It's a professor, doctor, there's a title for Supreme Court Justice, and many others. And so I think that alone, because I remember at certain points, such an image could be shared in group and people are like, that is the goal. I want to be like that. I think Professor Kanyeihamba's life is one that has been one of hard work, true hard work. And I think that alone is a message to many young people, because it gives us something to work forward to, right? When you find that the many things he has done, the honorary degrees that he has been awarded by universities even outside of Africa as a continent, I think he had a honorary degree from Warwick, if I'm not mistaken, and many others. But all these cannot come when somebody has not put in that particular hard work. So I think as a youth, as a young person in the legal field, I think he's somebody I truly look up to in terms of what he achieved during his lifetime. You find that even besides outside law, he's one of the few individuals that we have in Uganda that have successfully served in all the three arms of government and even outside government. And they still have that particular position where they cannot be disbanded, because some people, once they get out of government, they lose
relevance.
Yes, they lose relevance, and there are not many times where people are going to make reference to them again. But I think he retired from the bench more than 10 years ago, but he's somebody that has actually been so much relevant to the extent that even in recent matters, people have been going to him for guidance. Yes, even he has been involved even in court cases up to recently. I think even in 2020 something.
2023.
Yes, there are cases he's actively involved in. So that particular image as a civically active citizen of the country, somebody who has passion, is something that is unique. Not many people have it. Lastly, I think about him, I think he's one of the few individuals, more so on the bench, who had courage. You see, when you're studying constitutional law, there is something that is always talked about, and that something is judicial independence. Because you realize that in countries, the judiciary is the one that serves as the check system for the executive power, right? So at a point where we do not have a standing judiciary, then there's going to be an over-exercise of power by the executive. That means that the people in the judiciary should be people that actually are in position to stand up and maintain their fidelity to the law as it is, more so with regards to the constitution. When you look at his decisions, or for the time he was on the bench, I think the most notable one is his dissenting opinion in the 2006 presidential election petition.
Sure.
I think it was lost on a 4-3, and he was amongst the three that were in the dissenting. And I was working on some piece about electoral reforms, and I recently got to read about, and I think one of the most notable ideas or contributions in his dissenting opinion, which I think are more relevant today, are that you cannot, because for example, in presidential election petitions, we've had them continuously, but you find that they are not successful because the Supreme Court is saying, yes, maybe there was malpractice in terms of conducting the election, but was not substantial enough. And so so the court has been more inclined towards the quantitative bit of the election over the quality, because in almost all presidential election petitions, the Supreme Court has been saying, look, Electoral Commission, you're doing a bad job, or even some of the candidates are doing a bad job, or the agents of those candidates, in terms of abiding by what the law says. But his opinion was that we should give more value to the quality of the election. In other words, if the court finds that there has been any kind of malpractice in those elections, then the election should be annulled. And I think that is very important if you're looking at the quality of democracy that we need to have as a country. He was bold to make that decision, and not many judges have done that in their lifetime. And so I think that is a legacy to live on for as long as the state of Uganda exists.
True.
Yes.
And interesting lessons I think young people can draw from the life of the late Professor Kanyeihamba.
Definitely.
Hanah,
Yes.
I know you're not a student of law, but in your field, Professor Kanyeihamba is someone that cuts across, be it law, be it public service, be it policy. And his contributions to this country has been very fundamental. And he was among the framers of the 1995 Constitution, a constitution that has succinctly advocated for the involvement of women in politics and in leadership. From his life, what lessons do you draw as a young lady growing into the sphere of becoming a leader in this country?
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be amongst lawyers this morning. Well, when we see people like the late Kanyeihamba, he played definitely a big role, from what you have all shared, in building a country, in shaping how a country should look like. And hence his role in the 1995 Constitution. Well, one thing that stands out for me throughout his life is his passion for academia, his passion to learn, his passion to read, his passion, and he writes so many books that we can still draw inspiration from right now. I've not gotten a chance to read those books, but I know I'll get a chance to, and get some of his knowledge that he left behind. So we see his mega role in judicial, in public service. He was once an MP sometime, and that for me is he, like she shared, he comes from Chigezi, around Chigezi region, and he studied from, I think, Chigezi. What is that school called?
School?
I think it's Chigezi High School. Even his A levels, or yeah. So, and then from there he goes to, I think, Portsmouth, the University of Portsmouth. And to me, I'm like, wow, like such a transition. That was as very, I'm like, this person must have been very resilient, and he knew what he wanted from the start. So someone who wants to become a leader in this country, someone who is looking, you must have that kind of resilience, and it shouldn't come from anywhere. You should have focus, you should read, you should have the passion to grow and learn. Yeah, so I think that's what stands out for me in his life. Yeah.
Derrick,
Yes.
let's also get your thoughts. Professor Kanyeihamba, as a student of law, I studied constitutional history, constitutional law, and just like we oftentimes quote Lord Denning, for purposes of context, for people who are not in the law field, Lord Denning is a very strong legal mind that has contributed to the jurisprudence or the law sector, the law fraternity in Commonwealth nations as a whole. So he's a name that we quote in almost every case, and he has very powerful decisions. Lord Denning, in my opinion, and Professor Kanyeihamba in Uganda's context, I would equate them as more like equals. Though Professor Kanyeihamba is one person who has been very fundamental in constitutionalism. Somewhat Lord Denning has cut across, but in terms of constitutionalism, I would equate Professor Kanyeihamba to what we see in Lord Denning. And the fact that you are in studying the law and you're also appreciating constitutionalism since you're very, very interested in matters of politics, Professor Kanyeihamba has attributes that you would like to share about, but also the contributions that you think stand out for you in terms of law, but also in a broader social sense. Let's hear your thoughts.
I think I will be right if I call the late Kanyeihamba the master of roles in this country regards constitutionalism. I want to first of all condole the people of Chigezi land for the loss of their beloved son, and also categorically state that Professor Kanyeihamba has died a disappointed man. As the chairperson of the legal committee that saw the coming into life of the 1995 Constitution, he must be rolling wherever he is because of the different things that have happened to the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. I think I would be right if I say that the parliament, the legislature, under the mastermind of the executive, if I can state the name, Mr. Museveni, controlling the parliament, that saw the raping of the Republican Constitution of 1995, not once, but twice, where the masternuts of the Constitution that the country relied on were untied. That was under the Kadaga regime, and also recently, still under the Kadaga regime. That was the age limit and the term limit. Professor Kanyeihamba, while alive, has always stated that the constitution that we have right now is more of a paper. Feel free to use it the way you want because it holds no water. As someone who contributed a lot to its coming into force, to its drafting, he must be rolling in his grave. He's not content with whatever was happening.
Yeah.
I grieve with the country. I don't grieve with the judiciary. The judiciary has given up on its founding stone. It has done nothing in the legacy of constitutionalism. Yes.
All right. Let me just stick with you on that as we shift gears now to relating the issues. Of course, we know that Professor Kanyeihamba has been very vocal in the constitutional journey of our country. And that same constitution, the 1995 constitution, introduced the multi-party dispensation. A topic that we want to dissect today, looking at the conflicts that are arising in various political parties internally. That is, of course, we understand or cognizant to the fact that we are a fragile democracy. Let us now get your understanding, but also with brief historical connotation, to the conflicts, internal conflicts in political parties that is somewhat affecting the quality of our democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Derrick. This is not new. I hope you also see that it is not new. It is a game repeated from the previous elections. Sometimes back, Mr. Museveni came out and said, by 2026, we won't have any opposition. Of course, we operate in a political party context. Let's take a simple look at the DP Delegates Conference, what was happening there. Let's take a look at the UPC a few days ago, what was happening there. Let's take a look at FDC, what is happening there. I love the fact that you acknowledge that we are a fragile democracy. What makes us a strong democracy? It starts with the Constitution. What happens if the Constitution is not respected? That someone will wake up one day and influence its amendment, not to the benefit of the country, but to the benefit of themselves. Different political parties are emerging. Are they emerging to the cause of liberating this country or making Uganda better? No. These parties are emerging actually to cause more chaos. And the people who are going to be used to cause chaos, it is me and you, the youths, 18 to 30 years. That's how the National Youth Council defines the youth to be. I don't expect us to have political parties with good internal democracy, because we have been in this system for the last 40 years. The system is masterminded by a single person, which person is not willing to see that there is any progress in any other political party that is willing to challenge him in power. Yes.
Thank you. Mahad, let me also pick your thoughts. We have seen conflicts, or we are seeing internal political party conflicts, with the most recent being in the Uganda People's Congress. We saw an agitated president of the party, Ninsiima, in one of the television channels, when he was categorically stating that of course, we saw some DP strong individuals who took the party to court so as to hold the Uganda People's Congress from holding its delegates conference. Of course, which they went ahead and did. And the president was very animated in his submissions at the television. He says, "Who are they? Who are these?" That's just one incident. A few weeks back, we saw the Democratic Party in Mbara when they were holding its delegates conference. People were, of course, we saw a few clips of somewhat disorganization, but of course the party president articulates that the process was peaceful. On the other end, we have Forum for Democratic Change that has been a very pivotal opposition party in this country, post the multi-party dispensation in this country, 2006, 2011, and 2016. We saw the force that the Forum for Democratic Change posed to this country. But also, currently, we are seeing the split between FDC Katonga, FDC Mejana Nkumbi. That is, now we have PFF and formerly or currently FDC. Currently in the national resistance movement after the primaries, we have seen reported petitions, approximately 311 petitions in court of discontented candidates, and all these are conflicts that are brewing internally in these political parties, in terms of leadership structure, but also in terms of discontentment of the process of electing candidates that will represent these parties on the various political positions. What is your take on what is going on internally with these political parties?
All right. All that you've described, I can briefly say it's because of two main reasons. Number one, I think at the time we went into the multi-party dispensation, we did not invest much time into building strong political party systems. I say this, and it cuts across all parties, be it the NRM, be it FDC, be it DP. You see, most of the parties we have came in post-independence. Some parties like DP and UPC existed even prior to independence. So I think some of those parties you can presume that some of those parties like that have existed for more than even 20 years, like NRM, UPC, DP, for them they might be having strong institutions, but that is not the case. We had a time in our history, I think it was from 1969 to 2005, up to prior to 1980, I think, where we had no political parties. Even the time from 1986 and I think up to 2005, there were no political parties. We had political parties, but they could not be involved in the election and stuff. So I think that had an impact on terms of their institutions. But even the time post 2005, there's been a trial to build institutions within these parties, but it has not been successful. I think what majority of these parties have is that they have, how can I call it? They have informal patronage systems, right? And that defeats political parties because I think a political...
What do you mean by informal patronage systems? How would you describe that?
Okay, I'm going to get to that. I think political parties are meant to go beyond an individual. In Uganda, what we've been having is that an entire system is built around an individual. I think that explains why the NRM in particular has been very reluctant to disband off Mr. Museveni as its chairperson or national lead, because I think the whole system is built around him. And at a point where we have him outside of the question, outside of the image, there are many questions. That's why you see, I think, you have many members of parliament who, when they lose on the primaries, they would rather go and stand as independents, and they even win. And I think that is because they are not content with the party system. As long as they know they are not going to get into conflict with these strong people within the party, then they are okay to stand, right? They do not fear the party itself. What they fear are the individuals who really hold the power within those parties. Talk about FDC. I think FDC was strong for the time in terms of having political strength. It was only having that strength for the time when retired Colonel Kizza Besigye was at the helm. I think it is in 2016 when he stood away from being its head, and that's where hell broke loose, right? That's when we started seeing people coming out disgruntled, and then division started internally in the system. Because even when you look at the wrangles that happened recently in 2023, they were not they were not happenings at the time. They were going back to the times of leadership when, for example, Honorable Mugisha Muntu was the head. They were saying this and this used to happen, this and this used to happen. So there are problems that have been happening. When you look at other political parties, like, let me say the National Unity Platform, I'm not sure what would happen if, let us say, Honorable Kyagulanyi one day is sidelined or removed from the picture. I don't think the party will then hold as much strength as it holds. Yes, because the whole system is mainly built around an individual and not a system.
What you term as informal patronage.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Let me just hold you there and bring in Hanah. Hanah, the argumentation that political parties in this country are solely grown or developed around an individual is something that many people, inclusive of my brother Mahad here, agrees to. That if we took away President Museveni from the NRM, it could crumble. If we took away Mr. Kyagulanyi from the National Unity Platform, it could crumble. We saw what happened with the FDC when he described it when Dr. Kizza Besigye didn't stand in 2016. What happened to the party? Now, that just shows you how fragile our democracy is in terms of political parties that are supposed to move us closer to having a more quality democracy as a nation. But let me just pick your thoughts as well on the issue of individuals solely being the anchors of values of values of a political party and the identity of the political party. How dangerous is that?
Well, he brings up an interesting perspective where that you have broken down. Now, when I look at all this that is happening in our country, we have about 16 recognized political parties right now, and 5 that are still under vetting or something. But to see that every time we draw closer to elections, somehow someone has a different ideology, hence a different political party. And now, recently, as we're coming closer to this 2026, we now see more internal breakups and everything. So us as the young people who are, transitioning, and we are looking at these people in these positions, there's something that they send back to us. And either it's about their own interests, and the growth of our country is completely out of the picture, though it comes drawn in that picture. And when we see all this, then hence the commercialization of politics, which I truly want to talk about, because it's killing our country. It's killing what politics is supposed to help our country and bridge us to different countries and give us the right leaders, but it's killing us internally and internationally, even as a continent, Africa. But if we're to draw back the discussion, I think political parties and their systems and their ideologies should be revised. What they stand for should be clearly aired out. And we know that this is what you stand for. And other people will come rally behind you. And if there is nothing you stand for as a political party, definitely you're drawn to break up, because you don't have the same ideology, you don't have the same picture of why you even want leadership in this country. Yeah, so they should have solid ideologies. They should have solid, something that brings them together and identifies them as
on
that.
On that point, on solid ideologies, we are seeing very many young people who are vying for positions in either as youth member of parliament, national female youth member of parliament. Many young people are at this point affiliated with the National Resistance Movement, a party that has been in power for close to 40 years. What is your say on that? Because other people argue that there is no viable alternative right now for young people. There is no party that oftentimes appeals to the young people who are knowledgeable and want to represent this country, the national resistance movement. Is that a true assertion?
Well, I've seen most of these leaders within universities go in different political parties. And when they come out to join national politics, they now want to affiliate with the national resistance movement.
Could that be affiliated with conflicts that are being faced internally?
Well, I want to believe that people will go where the grass is green. That is also possible. And when they look at a party that has been standing for over 30 years plus, and I want to believe NRM has an ideology for this country, and that's why they have been in leadership for this long. Leave alone the corruption, the what. I'm being non-partisan here, but this is what we are seeing. I want to believe so. So they look and they see that there is a future here, and if they want to, take steps higher, they will have to
affiliate with the national resistance movement.
Affiliate
There's nothing to do about it.
I know.
But also we're seeing us drawn from maybe more of multi-party democracy to now dominant party systems.
Okay, that's a very strong assertion.
Yes, so now most of these countries have dominant party systems where one party is going to lead you and you will have no say.
Up to when you die.
Yeah, but sometimes there's a reason behind it.
So I think that's a very interesting analysis. That we may have the multi-party dispensation, but then over time the trend has shown us that even not only in Uganda, in other African countries, we're seeing dominant political parties, even amidst the multi-party dispensation, stay in power. Could that be because they have access to resources? Something that I think, Precious, I would like to engage you on. She mentioned commercialization of politics, something that also has led to the crumble of various political parties. They are not able to bring in a couple of leaders on the floor of parliament or even have their candidates win. But there's been also an assertion by people or even researchers that the national resistance movement, first of all, inherited a structure that existed post the multi-party dispensation. Of course, remember they led us through a movement system from 1986 to 2005 until the referendum. And they inherited that system. That means they were blessed with structures that already existed, something that other political parties did not have. And of course, besides the old political parties like DP and UPC, who again had to reinvigorate themselves and build the structures, which I think they're still struggling up to date. But let me get your thoughts. One, on the issue of commercialization of politics in relation to the internal political conflicts that we're experiencing. Is there a linkage between the two?
Thank you so much once again. Yes, there is a great linkage. However, we need to look at what has always been at the front line. Is it money? Is it ideas? That's why we have a debate, because we can see very many people coming out with the great ideas, and maybe because they don't have money, the ideas also disappear. They lose the weight. Yeah. So we need to understand that the economics of the world have changed. Though the economics, we say they start with the ideas, but also that coin, that paper money. Because today we see also the Bank of Uganda raising different information about should we continue with the 1,000 paper or should remove it. So you can see the money influence will always be there. However, regarding politics, I think also as citizens of this country, at some extent, we lack sensitization. Because at the end of the day, what do we need? Looking at the current situation of the national resistance movement, because I think the one which is trending, and today they are going to hear the first petitions. And like you have said, and from my colleagues, that we have seen that we have so far over 300 petitions as per yesterday's New Vision and also the Daily Monitor and also the NRM records. So we can say that there are people who even had still petitions, but maybe they did not get a chance of filing them because there is a limit of time. They were supposed actually to file those petitions within 5 days after the declaration day. So you can imagine if you're in Ugulu and you have to run to Kampala and you file your petition and keep time. You need also money to move. You need to organize your documents that you're going to rely on as evidence, because we saw the notice as per the NRM guidelines that any person who is aggrieved, provided you're a voter, provided you're a candidate, you can file a petition and you have a limitation of 5 days. And then you serve your respondent in 2 days. So that is also something we need to look at, this limit of time. There are very many people who have aggrieved, but the time is limited, the resources, the money to run from your home village to maybe your legal personnel to help you, to tell you that, in fact, you have a ground, because NRM was also very open that you provide the grounds for you to come and say you are bringing your petition. You don't just bring your petition every ground you hear. You must be maybe contesting on that the person who passed through actually was not declared, and maybe the registers who at the district declared somebody different. And we are also looking at the funds allocation, because the last time we saw the budget. And a colleague mentioned of the mushrooming political parties, and whereby some of them are, it is just something you have to say out with a lot of pride, and which is NRM. And I think in every country there is that political party which is very dominant. However, we need to look at what is this political party providing. However, people are all running for it, but is it providing what is expected? Everyone may be having something, but is it good? Or people are going for it because it is bad, and again they are running away from other factors. We see that some political parties actually are being formed, because I am sure by 2026 we shall have over 20 political parties. Because when you look at the Electoral Commission of Uganda, the records are showing that we have very many political parties that are expected to be registered by 2026. Whereas we have some, yes, whereas we have some which are already registered, others are in the process of registration, we still have those which are being deregistered. So the question is, how about these political parties which are being deregistered? Have they lost the vision that they had? And we have also got the iPod. Maybe we also need to look at the iPod's capacity, because we know that it is to bring these parties together and they provide the best to the citizens. Because you see, these politicians, once they meet, actually they share a drink, but as citizens who are down here, who are running to hospitals looking for just a painkiller, it is us who are suffering. And again, our vote is being bought just by a warrant. Because when you come to my village, just when you have your 500, you can have your warrant. And you're selling your vote, because now our vulnerability is measured on 500, 1,000. Look at this young girl, when you give her maybe 1,000, tomorrow she will be able to give us a vote, which is not right. But someone commented that we are glad that people who are in the system have also faced it this time. And basically the people who are in the NRM, that they have also faced the problem that they have been advocating for. We see that many MUBS are the ones who have been bringing this money to the villagers. Let me quote it like that. People who are in the deep areas, we normally call them villagers as their common word. So they get the money, and that's how people have been using that methodology to maintain their position. Someone has been in position for 5 years, want to come back for another term. Now those are 10 years using the money. But now this time, I'm glad that some districts said no. Even if you give us your money, we are going to eat it, but we are not voting you this time. even if it's just a matter of giving you the flag, because they are just the flag bearers, and now they will contest with other members from political parties. So you can see how ministers have lost, and would be watching NBS News and be like, Minister so and so has said goodbye. I think that's been a common word. And yes, and it has also been a question. Oh, you mean now people lacked money? People had money, but now power belongs to the people as per the constitution. And indeed, we see that power still belongs to the people. If as community we are united, we can fight for malice. We can fight for what doesn't fit us. Because right now we are looking at, what have you done for us? Really? Have you been fighting for us? Or you have been fighting for yourself? And where are we heading to at this moment? At this time, we want service delivery. We need to change, because now NRM people, you find that the ones who are now advocating for change. We used to think that it is only FDC because service would say change every time. But now you can see the NRM people, the NRM voters, are the ones who are saying this time we want change. This minister so and so has been not doing anything for us, and we are doing change. So it has been like a wind blow. And that's why you see these petitions, and someone said that this petition, because we know that there are now 8 panels which are hearing these petitions, but still people are like, even if you come as independent, we are not ready to vote you because you have not done what is right. We sent you for something and you have done something just for your own personal benefit.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let's just, of course, have had the views. We have talked about the legacy of Professor Kanyeihamba and just quickly hinted on the internal political party conflicts that are rising. And of course, it's the perspective of the young people. My name is Douglas Onen. Let's go for a short break. See you in a bit.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the break. Just before we went into the break, we have been discussing one, of course, we looked at the legacy of Professor Kanyeihamba, but also we then entered into the discussion of having the youth perspective on the internal conflicts in political parties that are brewing. And of course, the panel has been very, very succinct in the discussion. And what I picked from the first half of the show was an idea relating to a one-man party, a one-man show in political parties. The other thing is the commercialization of the politics that are embedded in it, among other views that have been shared. But let me start again with you, Mahad, in this half of the show. We have talked about individuals personifying or representing a whole political party, which is a possible avenue of conflict that we're seeing in these political parties. An argument that you raise. As a young person who I think I also posed the question to Hanah, the NRM, amidst its glory, there are also challenges that they're experiencing at the moment. Council here ably talked about the petitions that are currently being received, over 311 petitions that are there from disgruntled members in the recently concluded primaries. All those are possibilities or avenues of conflict that could are affecting the various political parties. But let's now break the conversation further. understanding Uganda as a very growing or a young democracy that is growing, is it something that personally I am not happy with, to see that our democracy is taking a trend, one, that there's a lot of political financing that is affecting the quality of democracy that we need in this institution, but also two, individuals who make these institutions in their image, that even when they are no more, the political party or that institution fails. As opposed to the previous years, even post-independence, political parties like the UPC, like DP, that had ideas and have stood the test of time, not because of individuals, but because of the ideology that they stand on. So what are those other possible, should I call them underpinnings, that are leading to these internal political party conflicts that we haven't yet discussed?
Okay, thank you very much, Derrick. So I think I will acknowledge the two factors that we've already talked about, but I think going back, like you said, Uganda is a growing democracy, and Uganda has a challenge, and that challenge goes deep down even into the political parties. Initially, when we're talking about the late Professor Kanyeihamba, we talked about constitutional fidelity. In other words, if the law says A, do not abandon A for political, how can I call it? Since you're going to get a political gain B, right? So if the Constitution says you're bound to 2 terms, you do not rub that and write something else, because you want to achieve something at the end of the day. That is what has happened. That is what has happened at a national scale, like my brother shared, when we had the 2 constitution amendments and many other things that have happened. But I think even when you go down to the political parties, you see that we do not have people going by values of a political party, right? When you look at other nations, like maybe, let me make reference to the United Kingdom, since it's where we draw most of our lessons from as a Commonwealth country. Britain has very many political parties, but you find that even the way how these political parties operate is that the people are going to be, these people subscribe to the values, to the whole idea behind the political party, because you find that some of these political parties, for example, that exist in the UK, came about because of the many challenges that workers were facing. So as workers, they formed their political parties to front their ideas. You find that something like the Labour, is it the Labour Party? Yeah, and many other parties like that. But these parties have that agenda that, you know, that even in 2025, where we have labor rights as being something that is internationally recognized, these political parties do not abandon that, because that's their core identity. Those are their core values, right? When you come to Uganda, we have political parties that are not going by that. We do away with values easily for purposes of political convenience. Look at UPC, what happened last week. The constitution of the party that has existed even before independence says a leader of that political party is limited to 2 terms. We have Honorable Hanah having a few people sit as the delegates conference, and they're trying to do away with that particular provision simply because they want to continue being at the helm of the party. And I think that in and of itself challenges the values of the party, because if you're able to do away with that, then you're doing away with the identity of the party and you're making it more about an individual. That means that if you do with those term limits tomorrow, if we have a value, for example, we're saying we do not accept corruption. If that corruption is what is going to help us get political convenience, then people will not have any problem doing that, because that is what is going to make them benefit at the end of the day, right? We had Honorable, I think it is, I'm forgetting the name. He aspired for presidency in the last election. He said he formed a party. No, he's a pastor. No. There's another one. No. He formed a party, but he says what he's paying attention to, not his number one agenda and the whole agenda for his party is economic reforms. So it's, yes, Joseph Kabuleta. Yes, his economic reforms, right? So that is the identity. So they are going to have values within that to achieve that particular goal. But you find that at any time, if Joseph Kabuleta and his party members find that there is something they're able to benefit, maybe by fronting another goal that is not that, then they're going to do away with that. And I think that affects the system of the parties. So that's one of the things that actually brew conflict within, because when you do away with those values, then it loses its identity. Look at the DP, Democratic Party, even the name itself, it has those values that ever since independence, it has been fighting for a democratic kind of system where we have, justice. Yes, but we have people going to count ballots of the party itself from within a closed room. So then, with that kind of image being portrayed, would you expect members who value those particular, that particular identity to then go ahead and just follow blindly whatever the leader says? Then I think that is most unlikely to happen. And that is one of the things that actually lead to these internal conflicts within these political parties.
Interesting analysis. Hanah, looking at the fundamentals being that political parties are supposed to be a representation of democracy, and they ought to signify that there is, of course, a democratic system in place. But if we are having these institutions, those democratic institutions supposed to be the face of what a democracy is supposed to look like with conflicts, then what is the nation supposed to, what are we the voters supposed to look at? What are we the young people supposed to look at and reflect upon? Because we hope and intend and wish that individuals in these political parties, first of all, signify and personify the values and the ideas that these parties represent. But as you say, they oftentimes sideline that for political convenience. My question now to you is going to be in regards to the lessons that young people can draw from the conflicts that are happening in these political parties, and what can we do to improve these internal political party politics that is happening?
Well, from everything, I say that if we don't fight for something, we can easily fall for anything. Even as young people who are learning from our fathers and people who are in these political parties, I think first and foremost, even before we learn, they should beat themselves on their shoulders and first wake up and realize where they are taking our country. Yeah. They should, first of all, like he has shared, if the value systems in these political parties are not strong, then they easily go with anything that comes. Yeah. So they should, like I say, they should readjust their ideologies. They should think through their value systems. And even as young people who are, trying to get into leadership and are affiliating ourselves with these different political parties, let us affiliate ourselves with something that we stand for as an individual.
But is that the case though? Because what we're seeing is young people are now seemingly not just joining political parties because they believe in the ideas of that political party, but rather the fact that that political party will help them achieve their goals of either getting into a particular position, not because of the idea that those political parties represent.
Well, that's something that is there. Yeah. And I think it can only be...
It gets worse.
Yes, it gets worse by the day. But if we are the young people, are the ones about to take on these spaces, then we should be thinking in a different way.
Okay.
If we are studying that this is how the environment is, and we want, we are always saying we want change, we want to fight for a better country, then we should be thinking in a different angle of, if this is what they are doing wrong, let us not follow the footsteps of this, but rather let us now start to think strategically of, if we want, this is how our country, I was sharing recently with one of great people in this country, and it's like, one thing that young people lack today are the think tanks of coming together to share what our problems are. One thing we have been so much close to, and every older person will say, we are just people there to complain about this, but we do less of bringing solutions on table. And if we don't start to build those think tanks in universities, in different, in those different areas, the slums, the what, we are going to keep taking the same trajectory, and it will get worse.
Derrick,
Yeah.
think tanks. A solution that one of the great people she talked to suggested. Universities like Makerere University, we saw a ban of political parties because of the supposed violence. And political parties in institutions are possible areas or think tanks per se. Something that we have seen various universities have curtailed or stepped upon, having the freedom of expression and association in these political parties. Previously, we had the Young Democrats, which is a youth wing of the Democratic Party, very vocal. Yes, UID. Yeah, thank you. UID. That is a very, very vocal. Was very vocal in mentoring very many young people that we see in leadership today. The likes of Thomas Tayewa was a UID. Norbert Mao was a UID, among other notable leaders that are even NRM today. Something that our generation seems not to be having, because our generation, people argue that we want the goal, we want first of all to achieve our goals fast, but also we want to get money quick. Something that, of course, parties like the National Resistance Movement, if you're brilliant enough as a young person, people say, will give you a platform to achieve that. Where are we going wrong now as a generation? Because we are, at the end of the day, buying into ideologies we do not believe in, but also being absorbed in conflicts that will seem to just keep on oscillating on a pendulum, and it will not move us further as a democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Let me start with this. Just a few weeks ago, the UPC president came out and said, if the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda was amended to remove term limits, what would stop him and his UPC delegate to also amend the UPC Constitution such that he can stay for good? I want to implore maybe him that stick to the values of UPC, leave alone the hula baloo. To the issue of think tanks, Comrade Mahad talked about political convenience. This was introduced in Makerere University, to be particular, a few years ago. I think during Dangote regime. I saw Dangote crossed NRM. Congratulations, precious. One person died, right? And that is the sole reason that Mr. Nawangwe and council chairperson relied on to suffocate the rights of Makerere University students provided for, is it Article 29, freedom of expression?
Yes.
And suffocated them from there. When we are traveling on a road and we meet an accident, God forbid, and all the people perish, do we stop using roads? No, we don't. When you take a relative to hospital and unfortunately they pass, when you don't feel well within you, where do you go? Do you go to a school? No, you go back to a hospital. Mr. Nawangwe these days is praised for putting Makerere to its knees because students never come up to speak about anything. That works to the detriment not only of Makerere University, but the whole country. I'm speaking in context of Makerere University because I know majority of people in Makerere University are young people. Makerere University, when you look at all the people that are in big positions of influence in this country, they went through that university. Even chancellors of other village universities, they went through Makerere University. When you come out and now suffocate Makerere University, where do you think the country is going? I think I'm right if I equate Makerere University to Uganda. Makerere University is iconic. And what makes Makerere University is not the ivory tower. It's not the Senate building. It is the spirit. It is the people, the young people who are there. Mr. Nawangwe, in collaboration, maybe with the Minister of Education and the purported head of state, they are doing it for their convenience. Now, me and you who is at Makerere University or any other school or institution of higher learning, we should be worried about the future of this country. Where are we going? What can we do? You should not be surprised if you find someone at Makerere University right now who is totally green about what is happening in the country. Makerere University was the advocate of change. Wherever Makerere University spoke back in the days, the country would hear, would listen. I recently joined Makerere University. I have not been there for so long. But the Makerere University, I always fathomed when I was growing up in those young classes. And the one I found there, I was totally disappointed. In fact, I was flabbergasted. It is not Makerere.
So
it is a high school.
So
it's no longer a think tank. We can't think about anything.
So does then that reflect the spirit that we're seeing in young people affiliating with certain political parties?
And now, they don't affiliate with those political parties because their inner souls align with those political parties. They do so for convenience. I'll give an example. In bona fide, in good faith of Dangote, he crossed to NRM recently and he won elections in Arua. He's the youngest mayor as of now. Crossed for convenience, not for conviction, not for passion, not for what he believed in, but because that's where the resources are. He will say, I have nothing to do. Universities are no longer a think tank. Okay. If Makerere University, which is the premier university, over 100 years of existence, can do such a thing, what do you expect of Kyambogo? Kyambogo has expelled its good president. Now, what do you expect of any other small university there? Universities have been curtailed not to think. We are simply creating robots which are going to follow orders of Mr. Nawangwe from his office.
All right,
yes.
Thank you. As we edge towards the end of the show, let me get to you, Precious. Just your thoughts now on lessons learned and what we can do better, but also a summary of what you think about the life of Kanyeihamba and your concluding remarks. In short, it's your summary of the show.
Thank you so much once again, and I thank my colleagues for the shared views. Really, we have to do something as young people and everyone who loves Uganda and Africa. Back to our greatest professor, Kanyeihamba. As younger people, as we lay him to rest today, all of us should put in mind that everyone can make it. From all the history that we have read in the news that we have discussed here, there is an area for us to improve on ourselves as young people who aspire to be heard, because we have the challenge of influence. You have something, but are you influential? Because we have seen that in most of his achievements, he was known as an influential man. And most of the times, the influencers' opinions are always taken to be right. We follow that. We follow the trend. Yeah, said it, that's right. And right away from the historical background of how he was born, because that's how a human being was brought to the world. Because we saw that Kanyeihamba was actually born from a forest. Not even from these big hospitals. So his childhood was just like any other child you just find walking, sometimes holding food in the hands and surviving. So as young people, we need to not to underlook ourselves, and also we need to have something that we aspire for. One person told me that you need to always write down your dreams and hang them somewhere so that you don't forget. You keep on reminding yourself, because as we have seen that there is politics, there is money, there is unemployment, there is poverty, there is death, there are accidents everywhere. You may forget that you have a vision. When you listen to the news and hear that, oh, this one is crossing to NRM, this one is back to NRM, this is abusing President Museveni, this one is talking about this, about UPC. What is your direction that you are taking? At the end of the day, you should be accountable for your life. What have you achieved for yourself? And can you account for your today? If they ask you, what have you done today? Or have you been sleeping? Or if you are doing something at work, what did you do at work? What's the quality of work? Where were the results? Because we see that how we get affected, it is through not what we do for a short time. It is through what we do for that very long time. And we see that for Professor Kanyeihamba to attain all these titles and all that popularity that we all admire was through the process.
Consistency and
yes,
discipline.
the consistency and understanding your goal and understanding that everything you do in your life, there will always be challenges, but you have to stick to what you hope for the future. Thank you so much, and I thank the Civic Space for hosting us. It has really been an insightful time together here to share with our comrades and also people out there. Thank you for being the best panelists of the year. I wish we can now award you for that.
Thank you.
It has been a grateful discussion.
Thank you very much, Precious. It's been wonderful having you on the show. Yes, Mahad, your concluding remarks.
Okay. I'll be brief in around a minute or two. But firstly, I want to make a point about what my friend said. I think on the idea of freedom of expression, you see, freedom of expression, I'll quote what Kisuze Makerere said during one of his campaigns, is that one of his favorite quotes with regards to rule of law and constitutionalism is that from Professor Tibatemwa, that rule of law requires conflict. Conflict not in terms of physical violence, but rather conflict of ideas, right? Now, that conflict of ideas is born by the experience we have, the internal conviction that we have as people. And I think for young students at university or the youth of this country, that conviction is born by our experiences, by the kind of inspiration that we have, and that stems from our involvement within the national activities, within the political parties, and within the environment at the national level as a whole. So I think the banning of political parties then has an effect on that conviction, and that's why we don't have those values. And conclusively, with regards to internal conflicts, it's similar to what I've said. I think we need to have more fidelity to what the law says, to the values that we subscribe to, and then that in the long run, that may have an impact on the kind of democracy we have even at a national scale. That is the kind of life that Professor Kanyeihamba lived, because when you read his books, his work was actually from the inspiration that he had as to have a better Uganda during the times when he was a student, and then he flew to study in abroad countries, and he saw what was there and what is happening. It was that conviction that forced him to work hard and achieve all that he achieved with the desire to have a better country. So I think we also need to have that going forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hanah, concluding on
Thank you so much. Well, we all know Uganda as the Pearl of Africa. And a pearl is something so beautiful. So if we want to actually be the Pearl of Africa, it's going to start from our politics as a country, from the people we choose to put in positions of leadership to make the decisions and the policies on our behalf. So as young people, we shouldn't auction our democracy. We shouldn't be swayed by anything. If there is no solid ideology we can't stand for, then we can start our own that we actually believe in. We hold the biggest population in this country. That means we have a lot of say in who we actually put in these positions of leadership. So it will always come back to us. If we want great service delivery, if we want change as a whole in our country, then we should think in the right direction. And we should learn to build one another. We should learn to grow with one another. We have, many of us have read the story of the late Professor Kanyeihamba, and we learn a lot from him in terms of resilience, discipline, action-oriented. So we should learn from such people that had the heart to build our country and take it on. There is no way you can build something you don't love. And we've had so many people, if I get a chance, I will leave this country. No, we have to build this country. It takes you and me to build this country. And yeah, so thank you so much to Civic Space for always bringing together young people to share their minds, because it starts from also this kind of freedom of expression. And yeah, for God and my country.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Derrick, your concluding remarks.
When I started here, I started by thanking CCG for doing what government has failed to do, that is involving young people in such discussions. Yeah. We are going in a very slippery time. We are going in elections. To the youth there, Kalonde, Kakume, Tubakiriza Kabba. To the citizens of this country, I mourn with each and everyone for the loss of our legal mob, George Wilson Kanyeihamba. May his soul rest in eternal peace. To the ghetto youth outside there, Kwata Kalam, Sula Peva. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We've heard the message from the young people. I don't want to add any other spice because their spice is just on point. This is Civic Space TV. Thank you very much to the production crew, Tal and Brittany, for making this possible. To my dear esteemed panelists, Derrick, Hanah, Mahad, Precious, for taking time to join us on this conversation. Asante Sana. And to the Center for Constitutional Governance for making this possible. Thank you. And to your dear esteemed viewers for always religiously following the conversation. Don't forget to always subscribe and follow the conversation on Civic Space TV. My name is Douglas Onen. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.